Welcome to my PowerPoint about spectral cards in Balatro. There are a lot of spectral cards, so we're going to get through these early ones kind of quickly. First, we start with Familiar and Grim. Familiar destroys a random card in your hand, and it adds 3 enhanced face cards. This is actually pretty good in the early game, in my opinion. Enhanced cards, you can get steel or gold or molt cards or lucky cards or bonus cards, right? And, the quote-unquote downside is that you lose a random card. This is a very powerful card for direction. The cards like this are really good for direction and what they can do. And, Spectral packs, have a lot of whiffs. We do have to talk about that. Spectral packs have a lot of whiffs. There are a lot of ones that are just not good, or they're very situational. So having ones that are, relatively pretty consistent, like Familiar or Grim, that will always do the same thing and can, give your run direction, really provides a lot of value. Say you get, say you even get just a king, queen, jack, right? One of each, and then, it's molt card, lucky card, steel card. Well, guess what? Now you have a steel card and a molt card in your deck. Those can make it so that you have to spend less money on jokers because, your cards are stronger. You can get better poker hands with it. You can have better, scoring, so you can save your money for more valuable cards, more valuable jokers. And, that's the name of the game in Balatro, right? Is appropriately using the power that you have. This is why I value discards so highly, is because discarding to get to enhanced cards, say steel cards, is very valuable. If you're playing hands to get to a steel card, you're losing the value of the steel card, right? Or vice versa. I guess if your discards are really good for purple purple seals, but we'll get to that later. And yeah. Grim is, of course, in the same way as, Familiar, but it does 2 enhanced aces instead of 3 enhanced face cards. This is arguably better, in my opinion, because while Familiar can give you a little direction, Grim is more focused in what it does, because it only gives you aces. It does give you less, right? And since there are less, you're less likely to hit, gold or steel, which is probably what you want from it, to be honest, but direction. That's the name of the game. If you have a run that really doesn't have any direction to it, it's harder to win, right? But getting a bunch of aces for free, hey, now I can go Scholar, the A+ Joker, where it bases off aces, or you could, go superposition and place, straights with ace high and generate a lot of tarot cards. There's so many different ways and different things you can do with aces, and again, there you could maybe play a 4 of a kind deck with aces. Who knows? There's a billion things you can do with it. So these 2 cards provide an incredible amount of direction. Then there's Incantation. While Incantation does do basically everything that I said about the other 2, it's still slightly worse because it's number cards, which are, arguably worse than face cards in a lot of scenarios, and there's 4 of them. So there's a lot more number cards than there are face cards, which I said are arguably worse because they're going to be less consistent in what you get from it. And there's 4. So you're putting a lot of number cards into your deck. If you're going a ride the bus build, where you don't care about face cards, yeah, sure, who cares, right? Dang, I just got a bunch of enhanced cards. And I still think even in the early game, you're definitely not upset taking Incantation in the slightest. Of course, all 3 of them are pretty mediocre in the late game when you get to having, enhanced seal edition, cards that you already want. So there is that, but for the most part, I really do think the destroy and then add enhanced cards, spectral cards are relatively good. I think that if you find them in a spectral pack early, you are definitely not upset. You're definitely yeah, it was pretty good. Then there's Talisman. This is the first card or spectral card that we'll talk about that adds a seal to your cards. It adds the gold seal. Gold seal, of course, makes it so whenever the card is scored, you gain $3. That's pretty good. So when you gain money in the round, you will gain interest based on the money, right? So say you have a bunch of gold seals and you gain $15 in the round. If that puts you up to 25, you'll get the max interest. If, say, you only had 10, and then you get all that money. Of course, this makes it amazing with re-triggers like Ballot, or, you know, the Photo Chad combo. The Hanging Chad, Ballot, Photograph combo is already one of the best, you know, 2 Joker combos in the entire game. So being able to have Talisman on it to generate a good amount of money, because the Ballot's going to generate $6, and not even including the base $3 that the Talisman, or the first time it's giving you, so $9 total. That's a lot of money. That is nothing to scoff at. So in my opinion, when you're playing seals, or like, you know, Talisman, Medium, Deja Vu, and Trance, I think it is, I like to put them on face cards primarily. I think, well, I will talk about Medium more when we get there, but I do think that the other 3, you know, you're typically wanting to put them on face cards just because, I mean, face cards have a lot of direction, and there's a lot of ways to use face cards. If you're going for a flush build, having a lot of, like, powerful face cards is pretty good. If you're going for a straight build, using face cards is pretty good. So I think that, I mean, of course, you know, like high card and, you know, pair, etc., it's really good. But I think that overall, like, the Talisman and putting it on a face card and then using, you know, Ballot or whatever, I keep repeating myself, it's just amazing. It's just really fun. Gosh, I do this in all these videos where I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, Loco Thunky's just so good. The game is just so good. I love how much variety there is in strategy, and the fact that we get, I love the fact that Balatro is one of those games where it really just does come down to the situation, right? Because a lot of games, right, it's almost all, like, there are a lot of games where, like, something is just so much better than everything else that you should always take it. Balatro feels like it has better balance, especially when it comes to spectral cards. I don't know. I just love this game. I'm sorry. I love ranting about this game. It's just so nice. I have to speed up, though. I've been taking way too long. Then we have Aura. Aura adds foil, holographic, or polygram to 1 card in your hand. All 3 of these options are pretty good as they go to... Sorry, as they can go over seals or enhancements. I mean, I think that, like, you're picking Aura pretty often from your Spectral packs because it has no downside. A lot of the Spectral cards do have downsides. Either, you know, -1 hand size, or lose all your money, or lose a Joker, or etc., right? But Aura has no downside at all, so you're pretty happy picking it up at any stage of the run, especially because, well, foil, holographic, and polychrome are just pretty good. Then there's Wraith. So Wraith creates a random Joker and sets your money to 0. I mean, it's pretty obvious that this is, like, yeah, rare Joker. It's pretty obvious this is pretty bad in the late game, right? You know, if you're gonna have money in the late game, you're gonna have way more money than it would be worth to sell down just to get value from Wraith, you know, for random rerolling, right? So, yeah, not amazing. In the early game, though, I mean, this is probably, like, one of the top 3, I'd say, spectral cards to get on, like, ante 1 or 2, because, like, I mean, what could be better than getting a free, not free, I guess, but a random rare Joker? That's really powerful. There's very few spectral cards that are better than this in the early antes, and there's, I mean, so many powerful rare Jokers. You have like, Baseball Joker. That one's amazing when you have uncommons, which you're gonna get a lot of in the early game. Or you have Baron, which, I mean, God, it's Baron. Everyone knows. So it's just a super powerful card for late game runs. And getting it from Wraith can be super valuable. Then there's Sigil and Ouija. Sigil converts all cards in hand into 1 random suit. That's actually pretty good. It's very valuable for direction, you know, because, hey, if your entire hand gets turned into diamonds, hey, man, now I have, like, a bunch of diamonds. I'm going to go for diamonds and a flush build, or straight flush, I guess. But that's great. I harped on this when I was talking about the destroy and add cards, right? But direction is very valuable, especially in the early game, because sometimes you just don't know what you're looking for, you don't know what you're going to go for, and hey, if I just get Sigil, oh, I'm going to pick up some Jupiters now, and then I'll go towards some flush. It's super valuable. In the later game, it's kind of just meh, right? Because if you are going to go for a suit deck, then it's just going to be random and unlikely to actually work, which is not great, but you definitely can take it if you want. I wouldn't recommend it. Then there's Ouija. So Ouija converts all cards in hand into a single rank, but gives -1 hand size. This is, again, unreal amounts of direction for your deck. If you do get, you can like offset this with like paintbrush or palette to get rid of the -1 hand size. So there is that. But I mean, if your entire hand just gets turned into aces, wow, that's amazing. If your entire hand just becomes all 2s, oh, I can play Wii Joker. If it's all jacks, I can play Hit the Road. You could be the first person ever to make Hit the Road work. But you get what I mean, right? Having all of your cards become one single rank is, like, clearly strong. It's not even that hard to understand where the power is coming from, because we know that, like, Full House or 3 of a Kind or 4 of a Kind are really, really high-scoring poker hands. And, like, yeah. There's also there's of course a lot of jokers that do synergize with all of your cards becoming one, because, like, say you get, like I said, if you get 2s, you can go for Wii Joker. If you get 9s, you could go for Cloud 9. If you get Kings, you could go for Baron. There's so many different things that work with it. So Ouija, like, can be very, very strong. Sorry. Then you have Ectoplasm. Ectoplasm applies negative to a random joker and gives you -1 hand size. Of course, Paintbrush and Palette will offset this, which is pretty decent, but Ectoplasm it's interesting. I personally never take Ectoplasm unless I'm, like, in a state where I'm like, okay, well, either I need to hit another joker because I'm losing and I'll take the Ectoplasm for a negative, or I'm going into the very late game. -1 hand size for a negative joker is really not worth it, in my opinion, in a lot of scenarios. Like, when you're trying to beat ante-8, you know, and especially in higher stakes where it's going to be harder. So if you lose 1 hand size, it makes it so that you can't hold as many cards in hand when you're discarding. You're less likely to hit straights, you're less likely to hit flushes, and it's hard to swing in, like, on the scale of, like, good to bad, in my opinion. Then it's just awkward. It's just really awkward, personally. I don't recommend taking it. Especially do not take this in early antes. Like, do not, because it's just never worth it. You're never gonna have enough actually good you're not gonna have enough actually good jokers to make it worth it. But yeah. And then there's Immolate. I think that if we're talking about, like, ante 1 or 2, just off the top, I think Immolate is the best spectral card. No question. I think it's the best one in the early game. Nothing comes close, because all it does is destroy 5 cards in your hand and gives you $20. So it gives you a bit of direction by cutting cards. So you're like, okay, well, now I'm going to start cutting those cards and not build towards it, which is, marginal. But it's $20 goddamn dollars. If you get this on, like, round 1, like, after you beat that small blind, you just win the game. This is a game-winning spectral card to hit. I mean, just it lets you play yellow deck in any other deck, where you just say, hey, I'm going to throw my giant wallet at the problem, and, I'm just going to have a really powerful early game that I can just scale into, generate a lot of money. That's what Immolate does. It just lets you do anything you want, because $20 is basically infinite in, like, ante 1. You're just gonna buy as many powerful cards as you can based off of it. It's just so nice. I love Immolate. It's probably my favorite spectral card, personally. Rarely do I not want to see this. Even in the mid game, sometimes Immolate is great. Usually, you're not gonna take it if you have, like, say, cards that you don't want to get destroyed, or, enhancements or seals, etc. But I mean, you don't even have those that often sometimes, so Immolate it feels so nice. Then we have Ankh and Hex. So Ankh randomly copies one of your jokers, then deletes the rest. Yeah, I mean, it can be quite powerful, right? If you are hitting it on, like, super powerful jokers like a Blueprint, Brainstorm, or, something like that, right? You get even, like, super powerful runs from that. But if you're in a scenario where you don't have a good joker to copy, you can't, like, get rid of your jokers, then Ankh kind of just doesn't do anything. It's really hard to use and has a lot of, like, it's very case by case when Ankh is good or bad, but it can, of course, be very strong, right? Hitting Ankh early on like a really good early game Joker like Runner is game winning, right? If you get Runner and then Ankh, you just, hey, now I'm gonna force straights, and that's run carrying, right? Because that's so much value in the early game. Then there's Hex. So Hex adds Polychrome to a random Joker and then destroys the rest. I think that Hex is arguably better than Ankh. Of course, they're incredibly similar, but I think that Ankh is worse in the early game than Hex is, and then Hex is worse in the late game than Ankh is. However, getting power in the early game is more valuable, in my opinion, because it lets you set up your runs. And setting up your run is, more consistent than having like, hey, I got Ankh, now I have a random chance at getting a really good, copy of a Joker. That doesn't happen very often, let's be real here. So Hex just getting Polychrome, times 0.5 molt on anything, even on like a common Joker, right? That's gonna provide a lot of value in the early game. You could put it on a money generation Joker, and now your money generation Joker actually helps for scoring. That's great. I just really do think Hex is better than Ankh. When you're comparing these two cards side to side, because they do very similar things, I really just think Hex is better. Then we have Deja Vu and Trance. Deja Vu adds a red seal to a card. Red seals cause cards to trigger twice, whether it be when they're scoring or when they're triggering in hand. This is super powerful. Red seal on glass cards is crazy because it will times the molt twice. Red seal on steel cards makes it so the steel activates twice in your hand. Red seal on kings with Baron makes it so that Baron triggers twice. So effectively be times 1.5 4 times. That's a lot. That is a lot. And then, of course, we all know, I've mentioned it a billion times, we all know the high score runs that use Baron. They are basically, red seal, steel king. That's what they're all going for. So, yeah, it's really good. Red seal is powerful. I think it's, the second worst of the seals, but it's not because it's bad. It's more just the other two are better. Speaking of the other two, or well, one of the others, it's Trance. Trance adds a blue seal to a card. Blue seals give you a planet that is the same as the last played poker hand in a round. This is amazing, by the way. Blue seals are super powerful. I think that blue seal and purple seal are genuinely arguably tied for 1 or 2, depending on how you're going. And of course, contextually, right? But man, is it powerful. Getting free planet cards is insane. I think that planet cards are definitely underrated. I think that myself, I underrate them a little bit, but I don't like, how do I word this? Planet cards and planet cards make it so you're getting a lot of the molt and chips for your run from your hand itself, which means that something like red seal glass cards will be more valuable. However, if you're getting a lot or most of the molt in your run from your Jokers, blue seals lose a bit of value because, well, your poker hand doesn't matter. And if your poker hand doesn't matter, then, well, leveling it doesn't really do anything. Then we have Medium, and that adds purple seals. I love purple seals. Purple seals are part of the reason that I value discards higher than hands, and I just love purple seals. A purple seal makes it so when discarded, it adds a tarot card to your consumable slot. That's it. I think that tarot cards are crazy powerful though, so you kind of get where I'm coming from. I've made a video about tarot cards. I'll probably put it in the description, to be honest, but there are just so many very good tarot cards. There's not that many of them that are weak. I'm gonna be honest with you. I mean, it's maybe Lovers is the worst one. Make a card into a wild card, and that still has use cases because of flush decks or idle or I guess anything like that, to be honest. So yeah, that's super valuable. I like Medium. It's probably my second favorite Spectral card overall, to be honest. It's just so powerful to get tarot cards for free. And, I mean, if you just have a bunch of discards and you have a bunch of purple seals, you just get so many tarot cards. Tarot cards give you money. I can't. Then there's Cryptid. So Cryptid creates 2 exact copies of the card you've selected. This is amazing for getting more seal cards or more enhanced cards. And like that alone is really good. It makes it so you can get more like of anything, you know, for deck fixing, which is very powerful. But I mean, I know why you guys are thinking about Cryptid. Perkio, Cryptid, Baron. Oh man. So you use Perkio and copies of Blueprint and Brainstorm to get, you know, 1 billion Cryptids. So many Cryptids, like hundreds of Cryptids. Then you will use all those Cryptids to copy Red Seal Steel Kings with your Baron. You'll have so many triggers. You'll ding 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 hundreds of times. Actually hundreds of times because of how many times you're playing Cryptid. And just fill your hand with like hundreds of kings. I know I keep saying hundreds, but you guys, if you guys have never seen these like high score or non-inf runs, like there are hundreds of Cryptids and kings and all that, and you get crazy numbers, absurd numbers, and it's so awesome. Cryptid does have value outside of that, of course. Like I said, you know, copying enhanced cards or seal cards is just solid, but God, is that Perkio combo so powerful, and it's so cool. Then last but not least, we have Soul and Black Hole. Soul gives you a legendary Joker. I mean, like, let's be real here. Legendary Jokers are amazing. I don't think that, like... Sorry, there's very few Jokers that are better in, like, a lot of situations than any of the legendary Jokers, including Chico. Like, yes, some of them require more setup, right? Perkio and Yorick and, you know, Canio require a lot more setup than, say, you know, Chico or Triboulet. I mean, Triboulet's setup is a little whatever. But they definitely do require a bit of setup. But once they get rolling, legendary Jokers are legendary for a reason. Like, you get why they're so rare if you've played with them. They're just so powerful. And, I mean, I have to say it, I think legendary Jokers are my favorite cards in the entire game. I love all 5 of them. I love seeing them when they pop up. I love the fan art for them. It's just... mwah, mwah, amazing card design. Amazing. And then there's Black Hole. Black Hole upgrades the level of every poker hand, including the secret ones. And this is actually, like, really useful on runs, like, that use a lot of different hands, like, say, Obelisk, right? If you're playing Obelisk, you know, you're playing a lot of different poker hands. You'll stack up your high card and then, you know, rush away with, like, pairs, 2 of a kind, 3 of a kind, flush, straight. And you're going to be playing so many that Black Hole does gain a lot of value. If you're not really playing towards a run that plays different, like, kinds of hands, Black Hole is, like, definitely a lot worse, but it's not bad by any means. It's just very solid, because leveling up every poker hand, I mean, it still just levels up your main poker hand, right? So it's definitely not bad. I do think that, like, you're probably not taking it that often if you aren't playing a run that is about, like, many different hands, like I mentioned, but there are so many Spectral cards that are basically useless or actively bad that, like, Black Hole has no downside, so it's, you know, it's pretty damn good. Then there are 2 Jokers that generate Spectral cards. We start with Seance. Seance creates a Spectral card if your hand is a straight flush. This is, like, not amazing. Straight flushes are pretty hard to get, all things considered. And one of the ways to make it easier, of course, is to use 4 fingers. If you didn't know, I didn't know this actually when I made my straights video. If you play 4 fingers and you have a hand that is, say, 10, 9, 8, 7, right? 10, 9, 8, 7, and then you throw in, like, a 2 in there, right? Then the 10, 9, 8 are all, I don't know, diamonds, right? But then the 2 is also a diamond. That will read it as a straight and as a flush because of 4 fingers, which means it counts as a straight flush. That can be, you know, pretty good with Seance. I've actually tried it before. And note I said tried. yeah, if you are going for that, that means you have two jokers that are not about, you know, getting money or about scoring. And that's hard to swing on, like, higher stakes, right? Because if they're not doing something like, you know, scoring or getting you money, then it can be quite hard to use. And I don't think it's the best. I think that Seance, of the two cards on the screen, I think Seance is the worst of the two. But I just don't think that either of them are that great. Then the other card is Sixth Sense. Sixth Sense creates a spectral card if your first played hand of a round is a single 6, and then it will destroy the 6. This is way easier than Seance, do not get me wrong. And it even has combos with things like DNA, so you could, like, play the 6, get, you know, the 6 back from DNA. That being said, again, I just don't think it's particularly great. Random spectral cards are pretty bad, all things considered, and hard to use. Because, like, if you get an Ankh, you're like, well, damn, I don't want to use that. But you could get, you know, Soul. I actually don't think you can. No, you can't generate Soul or Black Hole from these. Now, I'm sorry. I forgot about that. You could generate Medium or Trance or Deja Vu or Talisman, right? And those are really good to generate. But, like, that means that you're not running a different Joker instead. And a different Joker instead is probably better. Let's be real here. Anyway, that's going to be it for me. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me anything down below. What's your guys' favorite spectral card? I really think mine is probably Immolate and then Medium. And then probably Trance. I don't know. I just like them. I value them very highly. And they're just really good. You guys can follow my socials. They're either here on screen or down in the description. Make sure to join my Discord because I'm really trying to grow the Balatro side of my Discord. I still, like, appreciate all the people that follow me or follow through Hearthstone. Do not get me wrong, I still love you guys, but I'm moving away from Hearthstone, so I would love to have more people in my Discord talk about Balatro. And yeah, at the time this video is going up, it will be 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time when it goes up, and I will probably be streaming at that time. So if you watch this, you can check my Twitch. I'm gonna be streaming there. I'm gonna be real, I don't like streaming on YouTube. I think that is just a little bit worse, but that's it. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.